Hello, welcome to Encore. On today's film show, an all-female war movie, a Romeo and Juliet alien love story, and a modern comedy about sexual harassment.
We like to dance, we like to fall in love. We may have mucked this planet up royally, but at least we're alive!
Dis-moi un bon argument pour que je te suive.
Tout le monde le fait, tous les couples le font, tu vois, c'est un truc de fou.
Non, c'est pas un bon argument, ça.
And we're joined in the studio by our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Eve.
And we're starting with a movie that's out in French cinemas today, and it's a film that had its world premiere in Cannes last month. And the French title translates as Down on Your Knees, Guys, and the official English title is Sextape. What on earth is this movie about?
You might wonder. It's about a quartet of young people in Strasbourg navigating modern dating and sexual harassment. The result is crude at times, actually a lot of the time, but consistently giddy and buoyant. It's about two mutually adoring sisters and their respective boyfriends and that ubiquitous device, the smartphone. In fact, I'd say the phones are smarter than the guys in Sextape. A genoux les gars, or Down on Your Knees, Guys, is the title of a French pop song from the early 1960s, so pre-sexual revolution. I enjoyed this thoroughly, and if you look at the radiantly enthusiastic blurbs on the French posters, so did leading French critics, many of them. But many of my prominent English-speaking colleagues, especially the men, hobbled by political correctness, or perhaps they just don't like forthright female characters, fail to see its charms. Let's take a look, judge for yourself.
Et toi aussi, t'as jamais embrassé personne?
Non, pas à ma connaissance, non.
C'est parce que vous l'avez voulu.
C'est parce que vous l'avez voulu.
Moi, j'ai déjà vu un documentaire sur ça, en fait.
Ah ouais?
Ouais.
C'est quoi comme documentaire?
Mais c'était pas pour les humains, tu vois, genre c'était pour les phoques.
Genre comment embrasser pour les nuls?
Non, c'était vraiment genre pour les phoques, tu vois. Genre,
pour les phoques?
Ouais, les animaux.
Un genou, les gars.
So am I to understand, Lisa, that English-speaking male film critics are so sensitive to the post-Harvey Weinstein landscape that they're indignant about situations that you find entertaining?
Oddly enough, yes, you summed that up well. What I like about this film is that it's told from a female point of view, for me convincingly and with a sort of elastic sense of humor, but it happens to have been directed by a man who worked closely with his two female leads to make certain that what they say and do rings true in today's France. So here are the film's fearlessly self-affirming young actresses describing the process of fashioning comic dialogue for dealing with the congenitally sexist males in their orbit.
The scenario was 100 pages of mostly testimonies, a lot of personal stories and dialogues. So we worked on it for about 4 months, half of which was spent developing the dialogues.
We took the situations and improvised with them. The director chose the funniest dialogue and worked it into the script. It was about 100 pages initially, and we ended up with 400 pages that we shot over the course of 18 days.
It seems to have been a truly collaborative effort. What, if anything, makes it specifically French?
Well, the antics take place during Ramadan, and the protagonists are all Muslim teens. I think that's interesting. It's funny and transgressive, and it somehow sidesteps the sleaze factor while confronting blowjobs, muff diving, and spectacularly visible hard-ons. You have to be 12 to see this in France. I think it's an invaluable...
And the show, apparently.
I think it's an invaluable and frank conversation starter, shall we say, in the arena of what constitutes sexual harassment and what can be done about reducing it. The film has excellent lessons to convey about consent. And what makes this tale refreshingly modern, I think, is that while lines are crossed and feelings are hurt, the injured parties figure out how to tilt the balance of power in their favor, and they grow stronger and smarter along the way. Conclusion: the patriarchy had better watch out. You have to be 12 to see it, as I said, and between now and December, 10-minute episodes will run on YouTube, which is also a great way to test your comprehension of contemporary French slang, whatever age you happen to be.
Okay, well, moving on from Sextape to a film set in 1977. Courtship rituals are still the topic. It's called How to Talk to Girls at Parties. It sounds self-explanatory. But it's not, is it? What's it about?
Well, I'd say it's interstellar, but not exactly stellar. It's mostly a very stylish, utter mess, but a friendly one. If you were alive in 1977, then you know that people really did dress like this. That's a lot of the fun of the film. You can tell the cast had fun making it, but I didn't have quite enough fun watching it, even though I really do like the premise of space aliens making a 48-hour visit to Earth, during which a young alien played by the always superb Elle Fanning meets a local punk lad, and they turn into an interspecies Romeo and Juliet. Here's a sample.
Are you shocked?
No. I get it. I'm into punk. My name is N.
Zan.
Tell me more about yourself, Zan.
Why? We've probably met 1,000 times. What's punk?
Like the Ramones, or the Sex Pistols, or the New York Dolls. Well, some people don't count the Dolls, but it's like anarchy. Now that is punk.
Do more punk to me.
You're punk, aren't you, Lisa? Nicole Kidman is in the film. Is that just a stunt to get moviegoers and to go and see it, or is she the right woman for the job?
Well, the film had its premiere a whole year ago in Cannes, where the jury ended up giving Kidman a special prize for her versatility. She was in no fewer than 4 films shown at last year's festival. This, Sofia Coppola's Civil War hot house drama Beguiled, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Jane Campion's sequel to Top of the Lake. Wow. She gave a very fine, very serious performance in John Cameron Mitchell's previous film, Rabbit Hole, 8 years ago, and I'm just guessing that they like to work together. Here she's called upon to be very silly and obliges. Now, you sat down with the director of Hedwig and the Angry Inch and the barrier-busting, near-pornographic short bus to talk about a seeming crystal ball component of how to talk to girls at parties.
We had an accidental metaphor for Brexit because we had made it before the vote, and Sandy Powell, our great British costume designer, said, well, how are these aliens are going to get around on the street in, of Croydon 1977 during the Queen's Jubilee without being noticed as rubber-suited aliens? I said, rain ponchos? She said, Jubilee rain ponchos with British Union Jacks on them. I'm like, but wouldn't that be weird when they all in single file walk off a building in a Union Jack? There seems like there would be a metaphor there that I don't understand. And she said, it'll look great. So we did it. And now we have this accidental metaphor of a bunch of people to avoid human contamination jumping off a building in a British flag. Our film is definitely, and anything punk, is definitely about breaking down borders. It's definitely about mixing. We have an alien and a punk creating a new colony, It's a romance. It's a simple high school love story that has an underlying message of hope and of openness.
And you can watch the full interview that I did with the delightful John Cameron Mitchell online at france24.com. Well, now to a new French documentary. It's called Filles du Feu. It's about Kurdish women in Syria fighting to reclaim their land and defend it from the Islamic State group.
Yes, the director-ethnologist Stéphane Breton made 4 trips to Syria between 2015 and 2017, spending 8 months total filming. What he brought back for us to witness is not what you call journalism, and it won't tell you anything about the geopolitical conundrum between Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. Instead, this subtle, poetic, and devastating film is a powerful demonstration of how blinkered and inane so many societal assumptions are. It's strange to know that in a region where women are expected to walk several paces behind men, some women are using their leadership skills and their guts to lead men and women into combat. In other words, under harrowing conditions, men and women have achieved equality. A woman is in charge.
وستيك هسه بنت ملبس فيك جيجالو هذا
بس فين جاملينا ولا
نينا كابنا دشير دشير بكسيها تمام مرمية
شو حمو مرمي
Now, as you can see, these people are very young. They address each other as comrade, and what we see is a genuine display of camaraderie. We don't see any actual battles, but this is a superb war film.
Now, there's another film, Girls of the Sun, which was one of 3 movies directed by women at this year's Cannes Film Festival, and that also tackled this subject, but it was pretty dreadful, wasn't it?
It was. You can say that again. Eva Husson's Girls of the Sun is a clunky misfire that, oddly enough, sold to distributors in many countries because its topic is, well, topical. It turns out it's very tricky to turn real female warriors into fictional characters without falling into these grating traps of condescending melodrama. In contrast, these female Syrian Kurdish fighters in the documentary are truly inspiring. And it's interesting to note that Islamic State group goons hate the idea of being killed by one of these intrepid females because they believe that if they're killed by a woman, then they won't go to paradise. And when you hear that, you just want to take these guys aside and say, so you truly believe that your deity will decide your fate in the afterlife based not on the life you lived, but on the gender of the person who killed you if you didn't die of natural causes.
I don't know how to link to our next film from that, Lisa. It's called Doudou, which for people who speak French will know that it means stuffed animal or favourite baby blanket in French. Le Doudou, or Looking for Teddy, as it's known in English, is a new French comedy about 2 grown men on the trail of a lost teddy bear. It is definitely not something that I want to go and see.
Do you want to go see it? Beyond French borders, this notion persists that French audiences primarily watch talky chamber dramas and serious films that qualify as high art. Those movies still get made, thank goodness, but the biggest French hits at the French box office tend to be dopey comedies starring ordinary-looking actors with dumb gags and forced situations. You haven't heard about most of them because that kind of very broad French humor doesn't really always travel that well. There are few certainties in life, so it gives me great pleasure to tell you that I am certain that you don't need to see this movie. If it's the only available choice on an airplane and you can't sleep, okay. It's the mildly entertaining story of an upstanding professional who is obliged to team up with a younger, callow man who collects luggage carts at Charles de Gaulle Airport to try and find the beloved teddy bear his daughter dropped in the arrivals terminal. That's it. That's the pitch.
Okay, well, if you, a pure Doudou lover, doesn't rate it, there's no point us going to see it. Well, we're going to leave you with a taster anyway. Remember our website. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Eveling in Paris. There's more news coming up after this.
Ah, c'est ici le doudou.
La jungle.
Bienvenue.
C'est toi qui as retrouvé le doudou de ma fille? Merci beaucoup.
Avec plaisir, nous, à Roissy, quand on peut rendre service.
Mais c'est pas le doudou de ma fille, ça?
Ah bah si, vous êtes ému, vous le reconnaissez pas,
c'est pas vrai, je suis venu pour rien, moi.
Non, pas du tout, ça fait longtemps que vous l'avez pas vu, mais c'est le bon doudou, c'est un miracle, regardez. Ça passe, hein, franchement. Enfin, je veux dire, ça passe, c'est le bon, quoi, c'est celui-là. En plus, il faudrait faire de discrimination, tous les ours naissent égaux, attendez.